A very good evening, dear viewers. I'm Shivani Srivastav, Relationships Manager at Global Education and Training Institute. I welcome you all this evening to this session of GETI Life Talks. Today, we have Ms. Suprabha Menon with us. She is the principal of Navrachna School, which is one of the leading schools in Vadodara. She has a career span of over 30 years. She is also the winner of the K.M. Munshi Samman India Inspirational Women Award 2020. She believes in compassion and considers it to be the foundation on which the edifice of true education is built. I welcome you, ma'am, to our platform. Today, she will be speaking on emotional and social impact of the pandemic and the role of schools. So, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shivani. It is a pleasure to be here with you and with our audience. Thank you, and let's begin. Today I will be talking about a very, very important problem or challenge that all adults, whether parents or teachers or schools as well, are facing vis-a-vis our children. The pandemic has had a cascading effect through various stratas of society. And one of the strata that is most affected and least visible is children. We talk about the financial impact of the pandemic. We talk about the loss of lives. We talk about all of that. But very rarely in our discourse we find mention of children and how are they affected and how are they dealing with it. So I would like to talk about this very, very important, I would say, issue. So let's begin at the beginning and let's trace the difficult journey so far. First and foremost, when the COVID situation was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, all of us were watching but what was happening around the world. We could see the numbers mounting. We were hearing all kinds of scary stories, but till it struck our shores, we did not actually factor in the impact it is going to have on our everyday life. Right. So the first thing that when the lockdown was announced, it threw up a lot of challenges. Um, At the beginning, all of us were very optimistic that social distancing is going to keep this away and we will get over this and we will be back to our normal life in no time. But it is almost 7 months now. Although a large part of a daily routine has resumed, but there are restrictions in place, and the most affected by the restriction are our children. So let's look at what are the challenges for our children. The first and foremost, the suddenness of everything has caught children unaware. It was, if I remember correctly, it was in the middle of the final examination in schools when the lockdown was announced. So in some schools, in some boards, the exams were over, but in the other boards, the exams were yet to begin. So all of a sudden, we find that schools are closed down. There are no exams going to take place. And then the anxiety. What will happen if there are no exams? Are we going to move on to the next class or not? So this was the first challenge that everybody faced. And this challenge was as let's say the challenge was as big for us as it was for children. So one moment, please. So once we were faced with this challenge, there was uncertainty, of course, and then schools geared up. Most schools did, and we began with the online schooling. The new academic year had already begun. So many state governments decided to give mass promotion. Schools where exams took place, the children got their results and they moved on. So the first challenge with online education was resources. In urban areas, children were well equipped and were ready to go. Same cannot be said about the semi-urban and the rural areas. So governments and the education boards came together, worked things out. So we started with online education. Now, from the child's perspective, suddenly the structure was not there. The school where they would meet their teachers, where they would interact with their friends, classmates, play with them, all that was gone. They had a screen in front of them. FaceTime, yes, FaceTime was there. They could meet their friends, they could meet their teachers, but it is not the same as meeting and interacting within a classroom. So, getting used to online education, getting used to online classes was the second challenge that children had to face. The third was isolation. Isolation not just from friends, but sometimes even from family members, especially if in the family they were elderly. So, the child, you can imagine what happens to a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old child who is told that you cannot meet your grandparents. The child may be very close to his grandparent and suddenly is told that you cannot meet your grandparent because you may cause problems for them. Imagine the responsibilities that is transferred to that little child. So this was the third challenge. Then so many families still facing financial hardships. So there is loss of job somewhere, businesses not taking off or closing down completely. Now all this discussion does not escape the child's attention. When things are discussed at home around the dining table, the child is listening to it. So along with his parents, the child's anxiety is also rising. The fifth challenge is the information overload. Anywhere the child looks, there is talk about the pandemic, there is talk about the number of cases, there is talk about the graph going up, there is talk about death, and any channel, any news stream that he watches, he gets to hear about that. So many times, uh, the child has no way of sifting the real information from the misinformation that is circulating. So again, a reason for the anxiety going up. Then there is the lack of physical activity. For a growing up child, lack of physical activity can have long term impact on his physical as well as his mental health. All this while we have been talking about all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Now, here we are asking children not to step out of the house, not to go out and play with other children. So, inside the confines of the house, his physical activities severely restricted. Now this we are so far talking about children who normally go about their routine without much difficulty. There is another category of students for whom this becomes doubly challenging, and those are children with learning disabilities, difficulties, who are very dependent on the teachers or their counselors or their parents to help them with their learning. Now, with the physical distance, they're meeting with their caregiver, the counselor, or the special educator who was helping them learn. That distance becomes doubly challenging for these children. Then increased screen time for everyone is a problem. Now for children, it becomes double the problem because learning is happening on the screen, entertainment is happening on the screen, socialization is happening on the screen. So no matter how much you try to restrict, and of course, no other avenue for a let out, so they're going back to the screen. So increased screen time is a matter of serious concern. If you see, a lot of children are reporting, parents are talking to us in schools about children getting frequent headaches, strain on the eyes, dry eyes, all these kind of problems directly related to the increased screen time. Now, all of this adds up to certain psychological issues, which we will see manifesting in the coming days and years, which are now at this point invisible because we are not meeting children, we're not seeing them as I'm talking as a school, as a teacher, right? So we're not seeing children, we're not seeing the manifestation of this, all these challenges right now, but we will surely see it when the children are back in school. Let's say examine the effects it has had on children, all these challenges had on children. Increased boredom, even with entertainment available on screen, boredom is setting in because it's the same thing over and over again. With the you know so many times parents report to us that while the class is going on, the child is chatting with his friends or watching something on YouTube, so you can very clearly see that he is not focused, and one of the reasons is the boredom that has set in. Second effect that we see very clearly is fear and anxiety. When a child hears about a death in the neighborhood or the death of a loved one or a relative, and there is talk about it, there is fear generated. The parent is anxious, the parent is fearful, that is transferred to the child. You see resultant behavioral issues. We have parents telling us how aggressive the child has suddenly become, how moody the child has already suddenly become, non cooperative, does not want to adhere to instructions. So these issues are very frequently seen in children now. A lot of guilt we see in children, especially if in the event of a death in the family, for example. So there is this anxiety: am I responsible for it? And children, there are a lot of questions in their minds, and they are sometimes unable to find the right person to address these questions to. The parent may not be equipped or may not have the patience to deal with the doubts that are coming in the child's mind. Irritability and aggression, as I said, reported by parents, that there's an increase. We see an increase in irritability and aggression at home with siblings, with parents, with relatives. Then we also find that the dexterity of the digits, has been affected. Uh, more time on devices, has equipped them with certain skills, but at the same time, less of writing practice is definitely affecting how they hold their pens, how they write, and the impact of this is again something that we will be seeing over the next few years. It will be a challenge for schools. It will take some time for schools to uh, build up these skills in children again. Increased engagement with social media and online entertainment comes with certain challenges. Parents are finding it increasingly difficult to monitor screen time because they are getting back to their jobs. Many of them are working from home, but they're busy. So it is not always that they're able to sit with their children and guide them or monitor what they're doing. So you will find that this unmonitored access to, let's say, the internet has its own repercussions that is being seen and felt now and is bound to increase with time. Now, we've seen the challenges, we've seen the effect it has had on children. So, how can we help it? When I say we, I talk about schools and I talk about parents and I talk about all adults who deal with children. Because this help cannot be rendered at one end only. It will have to be with all involved people. The first and foremost, this is for parents actually, because they are the ones with the children right. First of all, acknowledging the disruption of routine is very important. So many times children have questions about why things are happening in a certain way, why I can't go to school, why I can't, this is my time to go out and play in the evening, why can't I go down and play with children in this society? So, first of all, convincing children that this change is here to stay and it is for our own good would mean that first you acknowledge that there is a disruption and then explain to the child that why it is important. How social distancing is challenging but very, very essential. How it helps save you and everybody else around you. So, convincing the child about it. Now, here, schools have a role to play. The online classes need not be only about academic work. There has to be a slot that schools and educators, teachers have to provide for talking to children, making them understand why we are taking certain measures if we are, taking social distancing measures, why we are doing it and why it is so essential. Also, to take them to the nitty gritties, what do you need to do, right? Wearing a mask, washing your hands, how the hands have to be washed. These are things that need to be reinforced. What the parent is doing it, the teachers must do it, and together we will be able to convince children about the importance of the measures that we are taking. It's also very important that the adults around children, parents, relatives, teachers, are calm, number one, because the anxiety is getting transferred. So when teachers in the classroom talk about measures for social distancing, measures for keeping the virus away, they must do it with a very, very calm demeanor. There is no need to create fear in children. The child is already fearful. So there is no need for us to keep reinforcing, if you don't do this, you will get this, you will get that. What we need to tell children is that if we do this, we can keep the virus away. See the difference. If you tell them, if you don't do this, you're going to get COVID. Versus when you tell them, if you follow all this, you can keep the virus away. There is a difference. And that difference becomes very important when you're dealing with young, impressionable children. You can yourself find support in healthy habits and you can inculcate healthy habits in your children. Making children understand the importance of little physical activity. If he has been sitting on a chair for 30 minutes at a stretch, asking him to get up and do a little exercise, some amount of deep breathing a little bit of walking within the room, and if this is constantly reinforced, the child, it becomes a habit, and this is going to go in a long way in keeping the child's concentration in place and also developing his health. Very important, practice what you preach. When you tell the child, and this is especially for parents, much more than for anybody else, that when you tell a child that you need to get up after 30 minutes and walk a little bit, the child is watching you when you are working from home, when you are working with a device, he's watching, and if he sees you doing it, getting up and walking a bit, deep breathing, yoga, whatever helps, that is something that he will understand. Yes, this is good, and I should do it. There's nothing like practicing, to get to convince children. Encourage creative activities. This is the best way of taking the mind away from what bothers them and removing boredom basically. Little some time spent in, let's say, drawing, coloring, or even some craft work, or whatever else that the child likes to do, right? That goes a long way in helping the children find another area of interest, and taking them away from screen as well. A lot of children we see, and we see parents also actively trying to work with their children, and create things. Uh, Sometimes just a child who's very creative with words is encouraged to write stories. Goes a long way in giving his mind fodder for positive thought. So that is something that we must encourage. Even within the classroom, teachers must encourage children to take up or plan creative activities for children, uh, irrespective of subjects. Convey positivity. Now, how do you convey positivity? It is not just telling the child all the time that stay positive, stay positive. Like I said earlier, preaching does not help. We have to, let's say, practice that positivity as parents, as teachers. So when we meet children, if even if the talk comes back to the pandemic, comes back to corona, there is a way of showing them the positive side of things. So our effort should be to show the child the positive side of what's happening. When a child is saying, I mean, when a child is complaining about not getting to meet his friends, there can always be a positive to it, that you and your friend, both of you, are safe. So, what has made you safe? That you have followed all this. So, there are ways of creating this positivity, and it has to happen collectively. It has to happen at the home front, it has to happen in school. Establishing routines is important in with whatever we're doing, but this, when we say routines need not be boring. Routines can also have fun moments. It can also have family time together. When the children, parents sit down together and play something, let's say card game, or whatever interests all of them. Similarly, in the classroom also, the teacher has a structure as a lesson plan. She can weave in some amount of fun into that classroom, plan as well. So the child has something to look forward to. That okay, I have to do this, but also am going to get my fun moment. So the child should look forward to that fun moment. That's so important. So that is about how we can help our children in this very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful explanation of this topic. You have really went in depth and taught us so many things today. Thank you so much. I have a question here. Like, how can school take care of the students with special needs, like students maybe with some learning disability or any kind of special need? How will the school take care of them in the present scenario?
Yes. Now, this is something that schools must not lose sight of. Schools know who are the children who require special attention. Schools are equipped, most schools I'm talking about today, are equipped with special educators, with counselors. Now, their services must be extended to these children even during this difficult time. Now, in the routine time that has been, let's say, the Ministry of Human Resource Development has given us a time frame. Where your online classes should not be more than so many hours, right? That is with an objective. But children with these challenges will require that extra time, which the schools will have to arrange for. And that one to one with the counselor is very, very important, whoever is the caregiver, a special educator or counselor. So the schools must ensure that that service does not stop. Also, when we deal with children with special needs, parents are a very, very important part of our redressal mechanism. So, the parents also require, so many times, parents who are dealing with children with special needs themselves require support. And that support also has to be given by the school. The school counselor must get in touch with the parents, understand the challenges they are facing, and address that. So one must not lose sight of these children in this challenging times.
So the school and the parents should work together to cater the needs of the special
Absolutely,
needs
absolutely,
of the students. Thank you so
absolutely.
much, ma'am. We have some comments for you. Kiran Tiwari says it's very informative. Student engagement. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an informative session. Students' engagement in the class is the most important. And then talking about the question, our sport will definitely make a change in the lives of the children with special needs. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was really a delight and all full of joy. This session was. Thank you so much. With
Thank you,
this,
Shivani. I'm very happy that Getty has given us this opportunity, and you guys are doing great job. I have been listening to some of your sessions, and they've all been very, very topical, very, very informative, and really worthwhile.
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you so much. With this, we come to an end to today's session. We'll be meeting again soon with another eminent speaker with another interesting topic. Until then, goodbye and take care.